Welcome to BlackUSA.news morning show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real. I understand why my mic was off. Greetings and salutations, all my friends out there in internet land. I am William Honolulu Jr., and I have the privilege and honor of serving as the host of the Black USA News Morning Show. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this June 15th, 2022. Today is a very special day, an incredibly special day. I am so excited about today because today is my mommy's birthday. Whoop, whoop. I will, throughout the show, I will be wishing my mom a happy birthday as we take a break from time to time just to celebrate my mama. She is celebrating her 76th birthday today. 76th birthday today, and I am so happy. One of the things that I am most proud of is that I got to be her son. She is an amazing woman. The biggest heart, always caring for people. I remember one year she found out that there was a family who didn't have food for Thanksgiving. They had just had some type of tragedy. And what she did is that she went out and pulled together a whole separate meal and made it for them. I mean, everything. Honestly, couldn't tell the difference between which was going to what house. And she didn't. I was like, well, why did you do that? That was really cool, but that was a lot to put in. What she said is that it was the right thing to do. And there had been times in her life, especially growing up in rural Virginia, that she was hungry. And it was because of the kindness of some of the other people in the community that they even had food to begin with. That's my mom. That's who she is. That is emblematic. Oh, and she's so adorable. Sometimes, she thinks she's Beatrice Badass, but what she'll do. And one time she was angry with this lady. Oh my God, the lady had wronged her, and she said, "Oh, excuse my language, but she has got me so pissed off. So upset. You know what? Now I'm gonna pray for her that she gets what she needs, but I'm not gonna add in any prayers that she gets what she wants." And she was so oh. I was like, you were so adorable. I love you so much. That's my mom. And again, happy birthday to you. You know what? Depending on how I feel and the toll that this show takes, not even toll, but how I feel during the show, I might stop and drop a verse, I'm saying, sing some happy birthday to my mama. But we'll see how that goes. I don't know if that's actually a birthday gift or she'll think it's a birthday gift or not. But again, happy birthday, Mom. Looking forward to spending time with you today. We're talking about people who are great and got your back and in your corner. I want to say big up to my team, the super producer, Kyle Crazy Horse Morgan, Brandy Raymar, assistant producer, and Grace Awaka, my personal assistant. All of them, it's amazing to know what support feels like. It changes everything. Everything seems possible. And having been in spaces where I've not had support, I tell you all, it is so exceptionally important. So anybody you got in your life who will support you, make sure that you support them. Good morning, Michael Randolph. Hey, how's it going, Mike? All the time checking in from Tampa, making sure that we know what's happening down there and you guys know what's happening up here. Another thing I want to say, group of people I want to say thank you to is you. I am grateful that you come and join us every day. I am grateful that you are interested in the topics that we bring, and I'm grateful for your feedback. So do not hesitate to provide more of it. Let me tell you how you can send me feedback directly. My company is The Grinding Gang. Our info is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. You know what? Let me tell you a little bit more about the company. Hi, my name is William Honolulu Jr., and I'm the host of the Black USA News Morning Show and the president of The Grinding Gang Incorporated. The Grinding Gang is an organization that helps small business owners in the nonprofit and for-profit communities figure out how to make sense of all the noise. There's a lot of information out there, and sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. We help you develop business plans. We help you figure out what to do with a lot of the information you receive, and we also help you figure out how to become more profitable. We also host a variety of workshops. You can check out our next workshop on grant writing right here. All right, so that's who we are and what we do. Give us an opportunity to have a conversation and see if there's anything that we can do to help you take your business or your organization to the next level. Let's see, want to make sure that I get through my show notes because we're going to have fun today. We're going to talk about January 6th, the committee, what's going on, all of that. And I'm going to give you my take on it. So let's go ahead and get ready to do that. Anything else? Because I got to take care of my show notes, making sure I got it. Oh, yeah. Oh, hey, Debbie from St. Paul. Oh, man, I was supposed to live in St. Paul. I remember that. I was going to go out to law school there at Hamlin University. I was going to go out there to law school, but I got a better offer at the University of Baltimore. But big up to St. Paul and the house. Thank you all. Thank you for joining us. So let's get ready to. Well, I gotta make sure I got everything though. Gotta make sure I got everything because I don't want no smoke. No smoke. Yeah. Okay. So let's get into the whole January 6th situation, but let's not jump into that directly just yet. One of the things that sets the context. There's a couple of things we need to do before we talk about the meat of January 6th, what actually happened. So the first thing we need to do is to really cover the concept of gaslighting, and then we're going to talk about how governments work. So the concept, people hear the word gaslighting come up a lot in common conversation, but what I realize is that it's kind of like the word crazy. It is that catch-all for this type of deceptive behavior. Crazy is the kind of the catch-all for behavior that seems mentally off or abnormal. And so this gaslighting talks about the different types of lie, or people use it to describe the different types of lies and things like that. That is not necessary. That is gaslighting, but for this context, we need to make sure we understand how we got to how the word evolved and what it actually means. And so there was a 1938 play called Gaslight. And in this play, the husband is bad dude, totally bad dude. And what he does is he's trying to steal from his wife by making her think that she's crazy. And so one of the ways he does this is that he goes upstairs and he is searching for. So a lady was who lived upstairs. She was a rich lady and died, and nobody found her jewels. So he would go up there like every once in a while when she would go to sleep, and he would be searching the house, searching the upstairs apartment, looking for these jewels. And so they had the gas lights back in the day. So it's kind of like how your gas stove works, except technology was real low budget back then. And so if somebody else was using gas on the upper floor, it was not as much gas for you. So the lights in your house would go down because it was all like gas. And so if somebody else was using gas upstairs to see, so your lights would go down. And so she would be in the apartment and she started hearing things moving upstairs, and then the lights would go down, and then he wouldn't be gone. It would happen every time he would go. And she was like, "What's going on?" He was like, "You're crazy." And she's like, "No, I hear something." "No, you don't." And so this wasn't the first time he was doing it, but he had already sowed the seeds of getting her to doubt herself, because that's the goal. To drive you crazy, and crazy, not necessarily to put you in a therapist chair or you need to be committed. That's what his goal was. But nowadays, gaslighting isn't just done to make you think you're crazy on large things. It is done to incrementally undermine your trust in self. It is incrementally, it is designed to incrementally get you to rely on the opinions and knowledge of others and to doubt what you know. A lot of times it's done through fear. And people who are targeted are ones who already have anxiety. And so if you can take somebody who already has anxiety or who already has depression or prone to these types of things, and you create a more intense construct around them, they will either break, their minds will break, or they will start to normalize the behavior. Oh, okay, this makes sense. Okay. And that is the point. Debbie, you ain't, man, you ain't seen nothing yet. You ain't seen nothing yet, because that is the point. That is the point about gaslighting. It is to get you to normalize behavior so that you are okay just kind of going along to get along, because you are doubting yourself. And so it's important for you to remember gaslighting in that context as we talk more about what happened with January 6th. Um, One of the questions that I get, and I got several questions from people, and I'm trying to answer them all. So if I jump around a little bit, I swear I'm going to bring it all the way back. One of the questions that I got is that, why is this important? Like, we all saw what happened. Why is it important to go through this opera or this ceremony where nothing will end? Because a lot of us don't have a lot of faith in the system anymore. Rich people get away with stuff and get away with stuff whenever, especially rich white men. Donald Trump and all his cronies, rich white men. What is leading us to believe that there's any justice? But remember gaslighting. One of the things in the movie and the play was that everything changed when the wife met this detective. I think his name was Detective Ruff or something. She met the detective, and the detective was like, "No, you're not crazy. This is what's happening. This is what I think is happening." And they started working together to help her. Well, actually ended up getting her husband locked up. But she needed to have someone who was able to have an objective set of facts so that she can say, okay, I'm not crazy. Okay, this did happen. That becomes incredibly important because we get taught through stories. People tell us stuff. Like, think about how we teach children. It's like, hey, this is what happened. Hell, most of the time, I was an adult before I realized that the Bible wasn't just like the Grimm's fairy tales of God, where it was just these stories and parables that were used to teach, and you had to learn everything through metaphor. No, there are real sentences in there that tell you what to do. So we need to have the truth brought to us. We need to have an objective set of facts so that we know what we can anchor in and what's crazy and what's not. Anytime people are trying to keep you from information, you might need to question it. Doesn't mean that the information they're hiding from you is actually legitimate, but that's something you need to consider. All right, so it is important for us to get to a set of facts, a set of truth that is just the truth. Like, okay, this happened. You have evidence that this happened. Now, what we do with that, we'll decide that later, but we at least need to start on what actually happened. And that is why this is important. Even if you don't want to follow every moment of the trial, or it's not a trial because we'll talk about that later, every moment of the hearings or whatever, but it is important that there is a set of facts and we find out what happened. So that's why this is important. And that's why, a lot of people are trying to say it's a waste of time. We all saw what happened, blah, blah, blah. No, there needs to be an accounting, not accountability yet. Well, because how are you going to get to accountability if you don't do accounting first? Oh, dad joke. I might get some sound effects for my dad jokes. I like it. Yeah, I may have to get a button where I heard something like that. Okay, anyway, separate. But so it's important that we establish a set of facts. This is what happened. And so even beyond the establishing a set of facts, why should we care? That's been a one I get all the time, because it's like, this happened here, just lock the people who did it up, we can move on. But we need to understand that this isn't the January 6th part. The January 6th part was like the tip of the iceberg, or actually more like the head of a pimple. January 6th happened and we saw it, but that wasn't where it started. The day you wake up with a pimple, there was something else happening underneath your skin long before that pimple emerged. January 6th is the pimple. But we need to find out how we got that pimple, because that was a bad one. And it was an attempt to overthrow democracy. And while democracy seems to be a weird concept because we keep voting and nothing changes or whatever, it is important that we at least have this framework. It is important that we have this framework, and it is important that this framework be built on honesty. Why? Because otherwise the lies will pervade and we will end up down a road where we're following somebody. Hell, we're here. We have millions of people following a man who is literally lying that we can see. Ooh, Debbie said the United States Constitution is where the root started. Oh, Debbie, you know what? That's one of the places that we saw it started, because that's like the when it start hurting on the pimple and you're like, oh, it hurts. The United States Constitution is the pain that we with that when it's the bump before it became big. Where it started was the fact that the colonists from Europe decided that they wanted more. They didn't have enough. They wanted more. They wanted more. They wanted more. And they not only exported, not only did they collect more from other places, but they exported their lifestyle. And so, with disease, with war, with famine, with weird concepts of like owning land. I mean, when you think about it, how weird is owning land? You can't take it with you. That is how they got over on a lot of places. Territory was normally boundaries that they marked off for self-preservation, for food and things like that, not just to own for the sake of owning. She said they were big mad that God didn't create them first. Not just that God didn't create them first, but the environment that they grew up in, evolved from, was horrible. It pushed people to okay. We talked about the five monkeys when it came to gun violence, but I realized that the five monkey experiment is really important, and it goes. Debbie, you know what? You almost caught me. You're about to turn this from a 9/11 show. I mean, not 9/11, Jesus. The January 6th show. But you know what, Debbie? We're gonna talk about the five monkeys again. We're gonna circle back around to that. But I want to make sure I get through some of this first. So we should care because they want to take power, and think about what they've done with the power that they've had. George Floyd, Mike Brown, Freddie Gray. That's what they do with the power that they have. Black Wall Street, Move, Rosewood, lynchings, beatings. That's what they do with the power that they have now. A check on their power is the way that we survive. Making sure that they cannot do this again is the way we survive. Hey, what's up, brothers? Chap, what's going on, sir? Make sure that you check out Chap and Quito on Shared Space. They do an amazing job. Oh, and make sure that you support Breadcoin. Oh, see this, Debbie. You trying to be a guest, Debbie? You trying to be a guest? You trying to be a guest? Don't get me started. All right, we gonna keep January 6th in it. So, we need to care, because when they get more power, they will do more of these things. We will be in greater jeopardy as a community, as a free loving people, as people who don't want to see others harm. Because think about where a lot of the policies that the people who are supporting the insurrection are coming from. They want to hurt other people. It's not that they want to grow their own. They just want to take from others. That's it. So we need to make sure. But honestly, hey, you know what? Look at this, Chap. I like what you think. Cause I was gonna be a little bit more subtle with it. You know what I mean? Like have her come on, be a guest a couple times, and then maybe talk about the show. Chap is like, I know talent when I see it. I'm just gonna go make sure Debbie knows she invited. All right, Debbie. Okay, make sure. Hey, Deb. Here's the info at the bottom. info@grindinggang.com. Send me an email or check the link on becoming a guest, and we'll make sure we hook you up, because I like what you're saying, and we need to have a conversation. So again, we need to make sure. The reason that we need to care about what happened and how it happened is because if we just take care of the pop a pimple or put some concealer on it or whatever, if that's all we do, we're never going to address the underlying issue. And what happens when it comes again? Because don't get it twisted, it's not going to come again. They're not going to do this again. They have not stopped doing it. It is still happening. And so we'll get into that in a moment. But what I want to do first is I want to talk a little bit about how government is structured, because one of the questions that I'm getting is like, well, is this going to lead to a criminal charge? Is somebody going to go to jail? Is this a trial? And I want to clarify a couple of things. Let me add this so you all can see that. All right. I used to be the chief of policy and public information for the Maryland Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. And one of the things that I had to do was to go out and explain to people throughout the community how government worked. And so this is a few slides from some of the stuff that I used to, a few slides adapted from some of the stuff that I used to do. All right, so we know that, and we can't say that we know this because I've met several people who don't. So the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch, those are the three branches of government. And each one is separate but equal. And you hear that separate but equal thing a lot. But what that means is that each of them has a very specific place that they can do stuff in, and they can't get into the other group's activities. So like there the president doing executive orders, that's why there is a law that says how much the executive order a president, or what the president can cover in an executive order, because he can't go around making laws. So because that's specifically designed for the legislative branch. So the executive branch enforces laws. So that's the police, that's the president, the governor, the health department, those types of government agencies. Most of the ones that we engage with are executive branch agencies. The executive branch kind of like does the stuff. It's like the body parts of the government. And so the legislative branch, they make the laws. The legislative branch is kind of like the unconscious of the body. They look at all of the information. So the rest of the executive branch doesn't have to do all of that all the time. The legislative branch, they're the background mind, they're the subconscious, but they look through all of the stuff and they say, well, these are our values. This is what we're going to do, and decide for the body what will happen. And so that's what the legislative branch does. The judicial branch is kind of like the cognitive portion, or the decision making parts of the brain. The the judicial branch is the one who decides what happens. The judicial branch is basically like the active thought if the government was a body. Not a great directly on board analogy, but it gets us close. So each one of these branches has a very unique and distinct function. And it's important to remember that when we start, because I'm going to circle back around to what's going to happen. The other part of this that I want to bring some attention to is that levels of government. Okay, so in the rows, those are the branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial. At the top are the levels of government: federal, state, and local. And examples are the federal government, the national government, a state government, Maryland, and a local government, Anne Arundel County, which is a county in Maryland. And so, as you can see, each one of them has their own kind of version of the executive, legislative, and judicial branch, except local jurisdictions. Now, that's true in Maryland. It's true-ish. It's really technical, but for by and large, there is no like Anne Arundel County Court. There is, it all still falls under, in Maryland at least, under the state administration of the courts. And so just wanted you to get a layout. So there are things that in the national space that the president can do, and actually does not have authority to do it in the state. So that's why when you hear some things happening that the governors have to declare states of emergency before the federal government can come in, because the federal government has limitations on what it can do within a state's border. And the same thing happens at the local jurisdiction, where, however, particularly in states like Maryland, the state has a lot more authority to interfere in local jurisdictions than the federal government has to interfere in state jurisdictions. Normally, a lot of the engagement that states and federal, the authority that the federal government ends up having over the state, a lot of that has to do with the money that the federal government gives the state. All right, this ain't going to be a full-on civics lecture, but like I wanted to, because some of this stuff is important as we talk about how the committees are structured and what they can and can't do, especially on the issue of criminality. All right, and so this is just a chart on how an idea goes to a law, and it uses senators as examples. They get an idea, it gets drafted, then it gets submitted, then it gets introduced, then it gets assigned to the committee, then it gets a hearing in a subcommittee, then the subcommittee votes on report to the committee, then the committee votes and report it to the full Senate, and the Senate votes to pass the bill. Then The House gets the bill from the Senate, and the Senate bill gets assigned to a committee. The bill gets a hearing in a subcommittee. The subcommittee votes to report to the committee. The committee reports the vote to the House. The House can vote to pass the bill with amendments. The bill goes to conference committee. The conference committee creates a compromise bill. The compromise bill passes both chambers, and then it gets signed by the governor. It takes all of that for an idea to become a law. Now, in that, you notice that there's several opportunities for hearings. That is the part, that is what the legislative branch does to gather information so that they can know what laws need to be passed. So that's one of the things that these hearings are designed to do. It's designed because the legislative branch is the subconscious. They just they make the rules. They don't necessarily enforce them, they make the rules. And so what you have is people need to have information so they can make the rules. I think I had a glitch. So the committees, the legislative branch needs information so they can make rules. And so so they're having these hearings so that they can. But one of the questions I got is that they keep talking about this. It's a select committee. It's instead of a joint commission. And what's the difference between a joint commission and a select committee and all of these things? And so let me talk a little bit about that. They do commissions all the time. And so what a commission is that the legislative branch decides that something is important and specific enough that it needs its own group of people to look at it and make recommendations. So what they'll do is that they will pass a law and says, hey, we're creating this organization that we're calling for example, one of the most famous ones is the 9/11 Commission. So let's use that. So there's a law that gets passed. That process I told you about where they got to go back and forth, they did that at the federal level, which is a lot more complicated-ish because of the strangeness of their rules. So they went through that whole thing to create this commission, and the commission was an independent organization that had its own authority. They could issue subpoenas, they can compel witnesses. They created a law because remember, the executive branch does it. So they created a whole new agency, temporary till they issue the report, and that's what they do. And so that's kind of like the high watermark in kind of a legislative investigation, because they want somebody who you're not connected to any of us. You don't got to go through any of our internal politics or anything like that. Just get out there, get the information, tell us what happened, boom. Well, the problem was that the Republican Party didn't want a commission, because a commission, if you have the majority of votes on the commission, you will get the information that you want. You will get the stuff. And there's a lot of them who were involved in it. And this has been from reporting from other outlets. A lot of them, and we'll talk a little bit, well, we might be able to talk. Yeah, we'll be able to talk a little bit about how they got formed or whatever. So the commission would have been the high watermark. And there were a lot of Republicans immediately after the pimple popped on January 6th that were like, oh, you know what? We need to find out how this happened. This is a threat to democracy, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden later on, they didn't say that anymore. They was like, what? I mean, okay. So then you have, they took the commission off the table because of some of the rules like the filibuster, where you have to have 60 votes in order to just bring something to a vote so that you can pass it with 51 votes. That needs to be a whole separate show about why our system is so stupid, and not even just stupid. It's not stupid. It's designed elegantly to make sure that a few people stay in power. So because of these rules, we weren't able to get a 9/11 style commission done. So they were like, all right, bet if we can't get a commission done, let's just do like a joint session, and the two houses come together and do a joint investigation. Senate, nah, we good. So Nancy Pelosi was like, all right, bet. Then the House is going to do it. We just going to come through and we're going to do an investigation. And oh yeah, to stop the Negro Black, yes, that white supremacy is the driving force around this. Remember the gaslighting. People want to stay in power. They want to maintain their dominance by getting us to question what we know to be true. And so again, that's why this is important. Do you see how, like, even as we talk about this, it's like Oh, wait, yeah, no, you will not get away with this. So then it was like, well, let's do a joint investigation. So Nancy Pelosi was like, we're going to do this internally. She rolled up on Kevin McCarthy and was like, all right, look, you give me you give me 7 Republicans and I'll put 7, 8 Democrats on the committee and we'll have this committee, we'll take it through. So Kevin McCarthy was like, maybe, probably not. I mean, yeah, maybe. All right, I'll talk to y'all. And they were negotiated about it for like months. And then he said, all right, I'll give you my 7 people. 2 of the people on the joint were questionable. One, Jim Banks and Jim Jordan. Jim Banks is questionable because he's still spreading the big lie. He's still trying to undermine this. But let's look at Jim Jordan. And if you get, and he is a horrible human being, horrible. But I'm just going to show you some clips from other news outlets on Jim Jordan. But if you get an opportunity, look him up, especially Ohio State University and Jim Jordan. But this is about the January 6th. So watch this.
Jim Jordan can't quite seem to get his story straight.
Speak with the former president on January 6th. Did you talk to the former president before, during, or after the attack on the Capitol?
Of course I've talked to the president.
All three?
Of course I've talked to the president. I've been clear about that. I talk to him all the time. Of course I talked to the president. I talked to him that day. I've been clear about that. I don't recall the number of times.
Was it before, during, or after the attack on the Capitol?
I talked to the president after the attack.
So not before or during?
Right.
Okay, and
I've been clear about that.
But he hasn't been clear about that at all. Jordan seems just as flustered to answer that question now as he was in July when he said he'd look into it.
Did you talk to the former president that day?
I've talked to the former president umpteen times, thousands. I mean, not thousands
on
times,
January
but
6th.
countless times. I talked to the president. I never talk about what we talk about because I just don't think that's appropriate. Just like I don't talk about what happens in Republican conferences. So
Sure.
I've talked to the president numerous times. I continue to talk to the president since he's left office.
On January 6th, Congressman.
Yes, I mean, I've talked to the president. I've talked to the president so many. I can't remember all the days I've talked to him, but I've certainly talked to the president.
A day later, after having some time to consider it, this is what happened when Jordan was asked again.
Did you speak with President Trump on January 6th?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke with the president last week. I speak with the president all the time. I spoke with him on January 6th. I mean, I talk with President Trump all the time, and that's I don't think that's unusual. I would expect members of Congress to talk with the president of the United States when they're trying to get done the things they told the voters in their district to do. I'm actually kind of amazed sometimes that people keep asking this. But of course, I talk to the president all the time. I talk to him, like I said, I talked with him last week.
On January 6th, did you speak with him before, during, or after the Capitol was attacked?
I'd have to go. I spoke with him that day after. I think after. I don't know if I spoke with him in the morning or not. I just don't know. I'd have to go back and. I mean, I don't know that when those conversations happened. But what I know is I spoke with him all the time.
Yeah, I've seen people who get caught in that. But baby, hey, what's up, Rico? How's it going? But when you have people, it's like, well, were you over her house? How about this? Did you send her a text message? I mean, you know, I text a lot of people. I text people all the time. I mean, you know, I know her from work, and so I'm sure I've texted her before. Yeah. But did you text her about coming over her house or some sex? No. I mean, I know I text her before. I know I text her at times, but dude. So this is the guy that Kevin McCarthy wanted to put on the commission. Nancy Pelosi was like, oh, hell no. Nope, not gonna happen. Not gonna put him on. And so he was like, so him and Jim Banks, and there's some questions about what else Jim Banks has been involved in. So Kevin McCarthy was like, oh. And Nancy Pelosi was like, we're not going to put those 2 on, but we'll take your 5 and just give me 2 more. He had 200 names to choose from. She was like, just pick 2 others. And he was like, nah, we're not going to do it at all. What? Like literally, they were in their offices hiding from these dudes. They were hiding from them, not in the office, in the chamber. They had to be whisked away. They were coming to kill them. And by the way, big up to Officer Dunn, who redirected them at the risk of his own life to keep, because he knew if they made the left, or at that point the right, they were going to roll right into the members. He took them to the left and had them follow him. So big up to him. Again, you know how we do here. Anytime we recognize something that happens, we want to stop and shout it out. So these are the two dudes they put on. And so he said, nah, we're not going to have nobody on it. So if you're not going to take all 7 of my dudes, so how you going to how you going to have a witness? Oh, never mind. Okay. So he was like, nah. So for him, it was like, oh, boom, it's going to be it's not even going to be bipartisan. We're going to be able to say it's a Democratic witch hunt, and we're going to be able to undermine it and say that it's not even legitimate. But Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, they stepped up to the plate, was like, oh, nah, this is too much. Like, this is about democracy. And you know, let's not pretend that they are heroes here. Like, the bar has been set so low. So, because just doing your job, like literally just standing up for your oath of office, not even fighting for it, just be like, no, that ain't cool. That is courage in the face of. It's like, how sad is that? That's part of the problem. That's why we need to have the truth, because a lot of these Bamas was in on it. That's why they were asking for pardons, but that's down the road. So then Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney said, bet we're gonna be on the committee. And also, don't get it twisted, I'm not going to suggest that she's doing it just because of honor. Even if I'm not going to suggest why she's doing it, but I know tactically it makes sense, because her type of Republican is being shut out of the party. The crazy people are taking over the institution. So why wouldn't she want to do something to push back, especially if it undermines the top cheese? Cheese because he's orange. No, I don't have the dad joke button yet, but when I get the dad joke button, that's going to be one of the it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. All right. So this is and why do they call it a select committee? That was a question I got too. So it's a select committee because it's only on a select topic. The House has a lot of different committees. They have standing committees, subcommittees, ad hoc committees, and so this is just a special thing. It's the name of it. It's like the brand name or the type of. Again, talking about cheese, this is a Gouda hearing or a Gouda committee instead of a cheddar committee. And it's just like that. So the name, it being a select committee, doesn't necessarily give it any more or less power. It just means that that's the type of committee it is. All right. So that's how we get to where the January 6th committee in the House gets structured. And it's, again, a lot of drama. There's still so much drama in the background still. So that's how we got the committee up and running. So like we talked about, the legislative branch's function. So in order to come up with a statement of facts for everybody to be on the same page about stuff, you got to ask everybody questions. And so that's what the committee has been doing over the last, a year or so that it's been, or at least these types of negotiations has been to the ultimate goal of just, first, you got to find out what happened. And then you make a recommendation on what laws or processes need to be changed so that anything that was bad that happened doesn't happen again. So most of this, the legitimate portion, the legislative portion, is to get all of the information together so that you can figure out what type of laws need to be either amended, stricken, or added. That is what they're doing this for. The problem is for the Republicans, the problem for the people is that because of all of the co-equal branches of government and the processes and stuff like that, things get confused. So one of the other questions was, will this lead to anybody going to jail? Answer is maybe. Not this portion directly. Let's be clear. This portion will not lead to jail time. Remember, they're the legislative branch. They're the subconscious. Your subconscious can't grab anybody. Your subconscious can't do things. The subconscious can just influence your body. Well, some of it, like you know what, I take that back. Sometimes it can, but that's the same way. It's not a normal process when your subconscious makes your body act involuntarily. That is an abnormal process. And so when the legislative branch exercises that influence, that is unusual as well. I wanted to make sure, I like to be accurate. So I wanted to make sure that I said that accurately. And so as they're gathering this information, they don't do anything with it except make a report to the conscious mind and the body saying, hey, you all should do something about this. And so one of the things that is happening is that because the Department of Justice is an executive branch agency, and they are responsible for basically law enforcement in the United States, the executive branch has to take action. Now, one of the things that Merrick Garland, who is the Attorney General, one of the things that he's saying, and you've been public about it, which is a little not odd, but it means something. He said that he's going to be watching this hearing, and the Justice Department has already asked the committee for its documents, and the committee was like, nah, hold on, because we need to make sure that we get all of this information and we don't taint how we're trying to do it. The other part about this is that this is also, there are political aspects to this, because think about it. You just saw what I showed you about Jim Jordan and a lot of these Republicans. When the committee proves that this stuff didn't happen and how many people knew it didn't happen, it messes up the credibility of a lot of their Republican colleagues who may be running on the big lie. The running that the election was stolen and those types of things. And it also undermines the big lie around the country, because you still have people who are losing primary elections, Republican primaries, talking about how it's rigged. And so this truth helps to stop a lot of that stupid shit from happening. Let's see, wait, what else were we talking about? Who was going to jail? Oh, will this lead to anybody going to jail? So what happens is that that once the committee finishes up its hearing, I think they're anticipating finishing up by September. The hearings will finish up, I think, this month in June, and then they plan to conclude by September with a report. And up as of yesterday, the committee chairman, Benny Thompson, he initially said that, oh, that's making a criminal referral. That's not the committee's thing. We probably won't do that. To yesterday going like, oh, no, everything's on the table. And the fact that he started with nah and then went to maybe, that's a big deal. That means that now because of him, because of that change, the committee is at least looking to say, hey, Department of Justice, we showed you all of this, and now we're suggesting to you, my subconscious, like, hey, you need to go ahead and do something about it. And so that's how the answer to will something criminal happen, not from this proceeding, but that's one of the problems we have with not teaching civics in school, because we normally see all this stuff wrapped up in an hour with commercials, or a season. At the worst, we have to wait an entire season of How to Get Away with Murder, Scandal. We get it wrapped up in season, but life isn't in seasons. Our writers aren't that good. So this is a process, and let's be clear, it's going to be a long process. It's before anyone is going to be brought to justice, especially because Trump and his cronies, they have been very clear that they're willing to go to the mat. Well, some of them. That's one of the great parts when you hire spineless yes people, they can't take a lot of pressure. Like Bill Barr, your AG, your man's 100 grands was like, nah, I told him it was bullshit. Straight. And everybody now, they're trying to act like, nah, we was true with him. We told him what was happening. But that doesn't make you heroes, because you didn't tell us. At best, you just stayed quiet. And at worst, you were complicit. Gaslighting is the key, and gaslighting needs enablers. The truth is the antidote to the effects of gaslighting. And that's why this is important. We need to make sure that we know the truth, because the only way that anybody is going to be held accountable is if there's first an accounting of what the hell happened. We need to make sure that we are giving them that, or that we have that accounting from the people that we elected. Whew. All right, so I'm having a ball. I don't know about you. All right, so we talked about that. So let's kind of get into of this example of how, they say a bad apple spoils the bunch. You can't get a better example of how the bad apple spoils the bunch and how the bad apple spoils the bunch. And in this case, I'm using Trump as the bad apple. He brought a bushel of his own bad apples with him, but he is the most rotten of the group. And so the way that this starts is, like the pimple, it did not start when we saw it. The roots to January 6th, to the insurrection, to the coup, they started literally before the election, because that's one of the things about great con men. Great con men start the con as soon as they meet you. They don't wait till you have something to start the con. They start the con as soon as they meet you. And what did Donald Trump do in 2016? He won and talked about the election was stolen, was rigged. Millions. You all remember that? Because there's been so much that has happened in the last 7 years, 6 or 7 years, that it's kind of difficult to keep up with it all. But do you remember that there was a time where he was just like, millions of illegal votes, especially in California? Oh, they're all there. They're coming to da 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 da. After he won. And I remember somebody saying like, yo, if this is how you win, what happens when you lose? And I was like, damn, that's a good point. But there's enough stuff in place that it couldn't get too bad, right? I don't like being wrong. Well, sometimes I love being wrong. I hate being wrong in this one, because it has been amazing on how every time I was like, yo, this can't get any worse. It's like, hold my beer. All right, so he started it back then. And again, the con starts early. So what happened? He created a commission. What was the guy's name? Chris Kobach. Chris Kobach created a commission, what is it called? The Presidential Advisory Commission on Election Integrity in May 2017. This Bama got in office in January, and by May had a commission. Had a commission to study election integrity. What did he find? Nothing. It got disbanded empty-handedly. Oh, by the way, I want to give a big shout out to the Explainer, reporting by Ed Kilgore. Did an amazing job as source material for this. So that's what happens when he won. And he created a commission, and again, gaslighting. Don't forget that. It's not that I want you to actually believe that there's a ghost, or I want you to believe right now that you're crazy, but I want you to always doubt it. It is the doubt that's the purpose. And so and the funny part is that I remember some of these stories is that they were really active when they launched these investigations. There was a big fanfare, and the president would sit at a desk and sign it with his big Sharpie and da 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 da. But when they went away, it was like a media, not even advisory, like a line in a media briefing. And so what it did is that it captured the media attention. So everybody looked like it was all of this stuff that just never got finished. It's kind of like when you're watching a movie and you're waiting there, all of this. One of the things that Trump did very well is that he made everything compelling drama. That compelling drama kept people engaged. And just like the story, you're trying to follow the story. And as you are trying to follow the story, you start getting involved in the characters. And I've seen, how many times have, in Infinity War, when Spider-Man got dusted, it was like, oh my God, not Peter. He's not real, but I felt something. So when you see these real people and these heroes and people you followed and your elected officials, because don't get twisted, in schools and every place else, we get taught to follow the powerful people. The leaders of the team, the heads, and just trust them in our churches, in our schools, but the doctor said. So we get taught to just follow people, and once the problem is who they decided to follow. So then they keep raising these concerns about the election fraud and all, especially when it comes to illegal immigrants. See, again, the grift, the hustle, the con is in, because if there's something you already don't like, and then I can associate something that I don't like with it tangentially, because you've already believed the bad stuff about them. So if I can tell you that not only are they stealing votes, but they're illegal votes, they're illegal aliens, those people, that makes sense. That's something they would do. That's something that they would do. Those people would absolutely do that. Gaslighting. I can't trust the election because somebody's out there. Do you have any evidence? No. But I know why, because they have been gaslit. They now believe things that aren't true because the con man got in their heads. These people, while they don't get a lot of my sympathy, they are victims of this con, and they won't stop, because that's what you also have is the hearing on Monday really brought out, was that in addition to this threat to democracy of him trying to stay in power and all his cronies trying to stay in power, or at least distancing themselves enough, hopefully enough for them, it was also raking in big cash. In the week after, I think they said, yeah, the week after he started announcing the fraud, they raised $250 million from small donors, and even some of them, they kept tricking them, so they got them to sign up deceptively to recurring payments. So you give a $1,000 donation, and that's big, but guess what? Next week it comes out again. Next week, or some of them were on a daily basis. So that this types of fraud and grift were part of it, because again, it's all about the con. They start early because they know they're going to come and take something from you. They know they're going to come and need something from you and want to exploit you for something. That's why they started early. That's why this was always the con. And honestly, it's a con that went too far. And that's why, again, it's important for us to understand the truth so we don't get conned again, so that we can have things in place to keep this from happening to us again, because it hasn't stopped. They are still trying to do it. Listen to them still talk about the big lie, and they're getting more insidious. I think it's down in Florida, a lot of the people, the Proud Boys and these Oath Keepers and people associated with these organizations, they are starting to get elected to very local boards and commissions. They are, especially some of them are running for secretaries of state who control the election. When you have people who have already demonstrated that they have no allegiance to anything remotely called a fact, then guess what? This is what you will get. And that, again, is why this is important. We need to establish what happened to make sure that we don't get conned again, or hell, to help get, even if they get conned, to make them less dangerous once they do. Then there's a thing that is known as the red mirage, and they covered this in the hearings. The red mirage is a social phenomenon when it comes to voting. How much time do we got? Okay, we got a little bit more time. The red mirage is a social phenomenon when it comes to voting. The way it works is that conservatives, especially those who are older, tend to go vote on election day. Conservatives, Republicans at least, throughout the United States, tend to use day of voting as the primary way to do voting. There are some states that do mail-in ballots, or almost exclusively mail-in ballots, but the vast majority of conservatives or Republicans vote day of. The challenge is, so what that does is that the votes that are collected and verified on that day, a lot of times, especially in national elections, they look really good for conservatives. It looks like you're going to win. And then when you count the mail-in ballots, the provisional ballots, which interestingly happens a lot in jurisdictions of color because of the rules and the lack of resources that secretaries of state and the infrastructure provides to places of color. But yeah, like I said, it's still happening. And so what happens is that you have this red mirage. And this red mirage means that it looks like they're going to win when the initial votes are in, and then they don't. It's like if you were running a 100-meter dash and you stopped the race at 50 meters. It's like, wait. Just because you were ahead at the 50-meter mark doesn't mean you were going to win. Nope, I won 50 meters. I won. That's what was the equivalent of what's happening. And that is how the mail part started happening. And so what Trump did was he wanted to make sure that Republicans went out to vote that day. Even in the middle of a pandemic, he went out of his way, and this is my assessment of it. He went out of his way to disable the postal service, to start taking major equipment and routes away, and so that it would hamper mail-in voting. He's made a big controversy over whether they could be counted or not, or whether they were even legal, and that they would be fraudulent. And again, gaslighting. I want you to doubt everything. Doubt the people, doubt the media, doubt everything except me. You can trust me because I am the only one out here fighting for you. No one cares about you like I do. And we have to fight together, right? Okay. That happened. And so he attacked the mail-in voting, and did that because again, wanted to take advantage of the red mirage, but also to undermine the mail-in ballots that would rise. And then he just declared victory. 3 o'clock in the morning on the 4th after the election, he just said, "We won." Well, we would have won. We did win. And all of the doubt that he sowed, now was time to capitalize on it. You can't trust anything they tell you. These votes are illegal because they're still doing those things. And part of it was the demonizing of the Democratic Party. I'm sorry, the demonizing of anyone who did not agree with him. Because if you're not with us, you're against us. And when you create this paradigm of us versus them, you push people to the point where they have to, in order to keep that paradigm, they have to make ridiculous choices. They got to go like, oh, yeah. I believe, no, you shouldn't. So then to keep it confused, they filed 62 cases in courts where Trump appointees, non-Trump appointees. And that's another thing. They changed the narrative to that it was always about the sides. One of the things that people keep talking about, and myself included, is the Trump appointees voted against him because honestly, Trump did a lot to get people who were just loyal to him. And it's one of those things, and we know this. It became normalized. The lies became normal. Sitting there watching Brett Kavanaugh talk and watching how they bungled that investigation, the lies became normal. It was the gaslighting. That is the point. Let's not get it twisted that the point was specifically the coup. No, it was always to have, well, the coup, yes, absolutely. But January 6th, the riot. It was honestly I believe for Donald Trump, and I think this is where they're trying to get to. I think he thought it was just a pressure campaign. Nobody was actually going to be violent. And I would actually believe that. But I also know that once they did, he was okay with it. Actually, it made him happy. And I think that's one of the things that they're trying to establish, because you see, that's a big difference between I wanted them to attack the Capitol versus I wanted them to intimidate Mike Pence and the rest of Congress. That's a different crime. Both of them are illegal, but that's a different crime. And again, for somebody whose entire goal is to make things confusing, you become very cautious about how you approach them. Damn, we almost out of time. So let me a couple of other things. One of the other things that we've learned through the hearings and through other reporting is that Trump and his cronies tried to pull together a group of fake electors to take the election, to go and again create confusion. And actually some of them signed documents saying that they were electors, and they gave them a script on how to conceal things. And when somebody asks you this, lie and tell them you're here to do that. Like, when I tell you this is going from just, a general conspiracy to this is RICO. This is honestly, this is a problem that the middle income, and actually not even middle income, the upper class white community needs to address. Because guess what? Interestingly, I haven't seen any black face in any of this. I call on the leaders of the white community to meet with their colleagues and peers, to have a conversation and come up with some policies that we can implement. Hey, it's Erica. I knew you out there, Erica. I knew you out there. But that we can implement, that we can curb the epidemic of white corruption and violence. I mean, I've heard it said other places, other ways about other people. It sounds actually more appropriate now. All right, so that's where we are with January 6th so far. That's my take on it. That's my take. I know we got way out into it, but things I want you to take away from this is the gaslighting is the point. And the only way we can stop gaslighting is that we need to get to the truth, the objective truth, not your truth, my truth, how we see the stories we tell, not that. There are an objective set of facts. Some things happen and we are being lied to about it. This was not just a tour of the Capitol. This was not legitimate political discourse, because if this was legitimate political discourse, be very wary how that will come back. This is not over for them. They are still attacking our democracy. Our democracy. Let's not forget that this is our democracy. They are attacking it, and I've seen what they've done with the power they have so far. I've seen how they've devastated the communities that I serve. I've seen what they've done, and no, thank you. I'm going to continue to watch the hearings, and from time to time, we will bring you information and updates on it because it's important. It is important. It is literally the way that the country not just survives, because just surviving, that's what we've been doing, how we can change, how we can manifest better. But it only starts with the truth. We will be black tomorrow. I don't even know what's going on here.